All you do is play with your baseball cards, with the eBay, the Facebook, the auction houses. No! Get off the phone! When are you going to get rid of all this crap? Wait, you're going to spend how much? On what?
La 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 baseball cards. It's Cardkast with Mike and Len, the show about everything sports cards, autographs, and memorabilia. I'm Len Plessy, and I'm here with my friend and co-host Mike Z. Mike is calling in from an exotic tropical island called Brooklyn, New York. Mike, welcome to the show, bud. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Len? How are you?
We did it. We finally did it. We are here.
We are here. It's pretty crazy. I'm pretty excited to do this with you. Thank you for the opportunity, bud.
This is what happens when, for all the kids out there who are getting into their pubescent years, when two grown men who really like each other get together, 4 months later, they create a little baby podcast. So call Cardkast. So anyway,
yeah.
so listen, I went to bed early last night. What did you do for your breaks last night? How did it go?
Went pretty well. Yeah, I was doing breaks throughout the day. The first thing I did really isn't necessarily a break. It's in my room, the opening day room. We do something called the kitchen sink, where if anybody knows me and knows what I've been doing for the last number of years, I typically buy a lot of oddball stuff. I have a ton of, I buy deals, I buy things, pallets from people, from companies. And I just, it is and we'll get into this as time goes on, but my basement is absolutely filled with stuff. So I just decided to create something called the kitchen sink, where I have people get into, so it's similar to a break where one person wins and they get a flat rate box filled with just random stuff. So someone won that yesterday and they just shipped it out. The mailman actually just came about 20 minutes ago to pick it up and take. That was the first thing. Late last night, I did 2019 plates and patches, which is a new product from Panini, where they have 5 cards. And when I say new, it's relatively new. There are 5 cards. There are 2, they call them base cards, but they're really numbered cards. Then there's a really nice patch, an autograph, and then a one-of-one printing plate. So that was pretty cool. We did that last night. We got I don't know if you remember Uncle Rico from, what was the show, the movie? I can't think of it at the moment. Napoleon Dynamite. And we pulled Gardner Minshew autographed patch card, which was really cool. That was probably the best card of the hit. That was a lot of fun. We also did one of my favorites that's quickly becoming one of my favorites is cardboard hits. So this was actually, and I changed it up. This is actually a product that this company puts out, and they tell you that there's going to be, and they show you amazing players. It's all vintage stuff from like the 50s, even the 30s. They'll have Gaudy cards, play ball cards sometimes, and then 50s and 60s cards. And once in a while, they'll throw in some 70s. But it's 5 to 6 cards. What I did was I ran a random top 5 got in, and they did a draft, which I had never done before. When I do this product, I typically have a pick your player, and guys like Mickey Mantle could come out, Willie Mays, whole bunch of like top players from the 60s and 50s. So last night I decided to do a draft. It filled in 110 spots, filled in 3 minutes. It was incredible.
Wow.
We ran a random. The top 5 were picked, and we got some really nice cards. The best card, at least the first card picked, was a 59 Topps Willie Mays card. That was one for $1. We also had another cool card. Which I'd never seen before. They had a graded card in there. And it was a 73 Walter Johnson, one of those all-time greats.
Oh, yeah.
And it was SGC graded 8.5. So those are some of the big ones I did. I also did a 2017 Donruss one, a little inexpensive. Donruss football hanger boxes. I did a couple of those. And the green parallels are really the cards you're looking for. They're the press proofs. And the Mahomes in a 10 goes for like $300. And we actually didn't get a Mahomes, but we did pull Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara, 2 pretty good players. Not on the level as Mahomes, but still really, really nice cards. I can't complain at all.
Now, the cardboard hits, was that the same product that I saw you I saw you did a couple of those in a night one time, and I felt like you pulled. Was that the product where you pulled like 266 Topps Willie Mays cards out of like the same product?
Yes.
Was it? That was it. Okay, yeah. No, that's a fun product. I just
and,
enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, well, it's great because it's like opening a pack of cards from the 50s in a way. It really is, and they guarantee you. They say no commons, no semi-stars. Although this one did have commons and semi-stars, they didn't specify that there weren't going to be. But it's still vintage cards and big names. Willie Mays comes out quite often, to be honest with you.
I absolutely. I mean, how could you be upset if you're getting a Willie Mays card vintage? I mean, I love it. I love the product. I love the idea. I'm glad that you're doing it now. Over the past, like I would say, like week and a half, I'd like you to just kind of fill in the listeners on some of you had some really big hits come out of some of your products. Can you go a little bit further into that?
Sure. We actually, the first plates and patches we did, I thought we got a really nice hit with a Tom Brady 1-of-1 printing plate, which was really nice. We've pulled in my opening day break, which we really haven't spoken about yet. I'm sure we'll touch on it at some point. It's a product I've created. We hit a Mike Trout autographed baseball. There's some really, really fun stuff
Holy
coming
smokes.
out of my products. Yeah.
So
Again,
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Continue.
Well, I was going to say, the Mike Trout baseball is a phenomenal pull. And then if I'm not mistaken, I also thought in a different kind of product, you hit, was it Clearly Authentic where you hit an Acuna autograph?
Yes. 2 days ago, we hit a 2018 Ronald Acuna rookie card autograph out of 75. And before that, in previous breaks within the last 2-3 weeks, we hit back-to-back 1-of-1s in Topps Archives. One of them was Reggie Jackson, and the other was Chipper Jones. It's been a really good couple of weeks for sure in the opening day break room.
Well, while we're on the topic, and I know you said we'll eventually get into it, but why don't we do it right now? Please tell us about your opening day room and what it's about, and potentially how you can join, how you can view, how you can participate. I'd really like to hear about that.
Oh, sure. It's opening day. If you, it's on Facebook. So if you type in opening day, you should be able to see it. It's a private room, but anybody can see it. You just can't see the content of it if you're not in the room. And basically anybody can join. There's a few questions I just ask you as parameters. And after that, you get into the room and you could join any breaks you want. And what I like to do, and one of the key things I like to do, and what makes me different, because there really are, you're talking thousands or at least hundreds upon hundreds of different breakers and break rooms and that type of stuff. What I like to think differentiates me, number one, are my prices. Everything is very inexpensive. I will tell you the plates and patches, the Tom Brady 1-of-1 was one for 70 cents. Like, you're not going to find that anywhere. It's just, I really keep my prices inexpensive. I have breaks with set breaks where you can get spots for as little as 30, 35 cents. I have spots in some of my breaks that cost a quarter. There was a guy probably 6 to 9 months ago who won a 1-of-1 for a quarter. So there's a lot of good things. I create my own products in the room as well as purchase other products for the room. And it's not a lot of the mainstream stuff you'll see. More than likely, I'm not going to be posting 2020 Top Series 1 or a lot of the same stuff that everybody else is posting. And if I do, I'll do it in a different way where you're not going to see. It's not going to be by team. It might be by player. I like to do things a little bit differently. It kind of is a little harder on me on the back end, but I enjoy doing it because my whole reason for creating the room was that I got tired of being in break rooms where I would spend $100 on a team, and I'm a big Yankee fan, and I'm sure at some point we'll get into that as well, but I'm a huge, huge Yankee fan, and to buy the Yankees in any break ever is super expensive. So when you have to get into a case break for the Yankees and you're spending $100, $150 on the team, and you're coming home with, an autograph of maybe some prospect and then a couple of numbered cards and some base cards, you kind of feel a little gypped. So what I tried to do with this room is make it where even if you lose, which obviously, when you're in breaks, you're going to lose. It's just a part of the game. It's not going to kill your wallet. So that's really what I try to do. And I've created my own products to make it even better. I've broken some things where I said, I can do this better. And I've created, right now there are three if you include the kitchen sink, opening day products that I'm breaking. And there's a fourth one that I'm working on. I have an opening day break, which really could be anything. I've done, like I said, this is where the Mike Trout baseball came from. And it's anything. It's baseballs, it's cards, it's pictures, it's 8x10s, 11x14s, 16x20s. It really is. It's another kind of kitchen sink of basically anything, but all Hall of Famers, superstars. We pulled a Kobe Bryant autographed card out of there, like a pack pull type card. Mickey Mantle came out of there, an SGC graded Mickey Mantle card. Every name you could think of is in there. And then it goes beyond that. It goes into pop culture, where I had an Ed O'Neill autograph pulled, where he's Al Bundy. So it's a lot of different things. Sophia Loren. I have Gerald Ford, which he hasn't even been pulled yet. Historical figures. So there's a lot of things in there.
I have seen some of your breaks, and it looks very professional. I've seen some other companies out there try to do something that like you're doing, but the packaging is there, and I really feel the vibe in the room, because there is even though you're not really seeing anybody and it's you on camera doing your thing, you could tell that the people that in the room are very excited to be involved, watch, participate, and just check out what you have going on. It's exciting. I've seen it. I recommend anybody to go there. Go to opening day. It's definitely worth checking out.
Oh, thanks a lot, Lon. I appreciate that.
You got it.
Now on your side, can you tell the listeners a little more about this show and what they can expect in the future?
Yeah. So basically it's going to be a fun, laid back show with a variety of segments, including hot sports topics that make the news and how they translate to dollars and cents in the hobby. And because we started in March, which we wanted to start in January, but logistically we just couldn't do it and get it together, but we're here now. We're actually going to review the beginning of this year, and just going forward, we'll just play with the newest and the hottest topic. Also, we're going to go turn back the clock and dissect the history of the hobby. Not all in one show, of course, but just little by little. Every show we'll dive into the history of the hobby from the collector side and also the dealer side. And we have a small lineup of guests that will be coming on to share stories, give us their insights on what's going on today, plus give us a little glimpse of things to come in the future in this crazy hobby. Those guests will be announced as shows get closer. We will also be doing a Q&A segment where listeners can actually, again, leave comments, questions in the comments section, or they can email us directly at cardkast@gmail.com.
You had mentioned earlier we're going to talk about big sports news, and I think one of the biggest sporting news items, at least in the last few days, now that there's really very little sports going on, but how about Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay? That's a big deal, and what do you think it could mean for maybe his cards and the hobby in general?
Well, so big is the key word. So you got $30 million a year expected, reportedly, whatever, something that I just checked out. $30 million a year. I mean, that's a lot. But 20 years with the Patriots, another big number. 74,571 throwing yards, 541 touchdowns, 6 Super Bowls, 4 Super Bowl MVPs. Could have been 8 if the Giants didn't do what they did, which I thought was pretty cool, actually. But it's kind of funny as I was kind of doing the research for this, and I'll get into the cards in a second. It's kind of like my own personal Tom Brady story, that it's funny. So many years go by and you have a certain memory stuck in your head, but after doing the research, it's like, holy cow, this didn't happen. I wasn't there. So what I would tell people is that, a group of buddies of mine in Connecticut, there's like 3 or 4 of us were Bengals fans. So a bunch of us, I want to say 8 guys, took 2 cars and had a road trip in 2001. And it was the home opener in Paul Brown Stadium, where we actually watched the Bengals play the Patriots. Okay. So we drove down, there was 15 hours straight. And it was just crazy. We get there. I mean, I think I passed out because it was just exhaustion. And then, the next day we get up and we get to the game, and of course the beers were flowing. And I think we were actually driving home that night. So we had a couple of designated drivers, of course, but I didn't really remember much of the game. I do remember buying a Peter Warwick jersey because he was the hot rookie from the year before. And I think they were closing out Achilles Smith jerseys at $15 a piece. So I scooped one of those up as well. Now, what I thought I remembered was that Bledsoe got hurt by the Bengals, and that's what launched Brady's career. But after doing a little research, it was actually the next game against your Jets, and Mo Lewis took out Drew Bledsoe in a really bad way, and that's actually what kicked off Tom Brady's career. So
I remember that.
Yeah. So I had it in my head the other way. And the sad, unfortunate thing, coming back from that game, it was an Ironman weekend. I got back late. I mean, it was Sunday night, but it was really Monday morning. I pretty much slept all day. And then Tuesday morning was the horrible 9/11. And I only bring that up because, we're going through a surreal time right now, with the coronavirus. And I just, with the water disappearing off the shelves and the toilet paper, it just kind of reminds me of like, hey, what's going on here? Like time is like, feels like it's just kind of stopping. We're hanging on to what's next. I don't remember hanging on to what's next, since back then. So, I bring that up, but anyways, I was checking out some of the Brady cards, and even just recently, I mean, I don't really pay attention to what Tom Brady or modern rookie cards are going for. I mean, I have been a little bit, but I don't know them like the back of my hand. So I just happened to look up what a PSA 10 Bowman Chrome Brady, it's just a basic Bowman Chrome rookie. PSA 10, a couple of them sold for close to $2,000 each. I was blown away. I was like, wow. I remember that being like just an $80 card raw. The raw cards, I mean, they're probably $300, $400, $500, $600. The Bowman Chrome refractors, so the parallel of that card, were selling anywhere between $7,500 and $8,500, and looks like they want to break through that 5-figure plateau. I don't know if they're going to get there, but that's still, to me, just jaw-dropping money. And even as little as like for a little guy, Skybox Impact rookie, an 8.5 PSA sold for $125. I mean, that's like, so it looks like his stuff is going up. Is he going to go and get a 7th? I don't know, man, but it looks like there's players that are lined up to go be with him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if his career is still magnificent. I mean, he had a great career.
Yeah, and just to add to that, he's now got a whole new fan base of people. I was just hearing today that Tampa Bay sales have gone up incredibly, and as you would expect, but now he's got a whole new set of team fans who want to collect Tom Brady. Yeah. So I don't think the Patriot fans, especially the way everything ended, I don't think Patriot fans are bitter. I think they're very happy with what happened. Just like I feel like in a weird way, kind of like Joe Montana when he was kind of ushered out because Steve Young was ready. The San Francisco 49ers fans never forgot him, and they still revere him to this day. I feel like the same thing's going to happen with Patriot fans and Tom Brady, where no matter what, they're not going to rip up their Tom Brady jerseys or anything like that. Like, he'll always be revered and considered a Patriot.
No, and Patriots fans weren't, I don't think they were upset and hate. They were sad. So March sadness continues because we don't have the basketball tournament. And to the Patriots fans, we're sorry for your loss, but it's time to move on. So
yeah. And how about now with PSA? They're reversing course now. They were closing for a day in California, and then they reopened. How funny is that? I don't know if that's going to be the end of the story, but I was just thinking about that, how, a lot of people were very concerned. I saw it all over Facebook where people were complaining, or at least, they understood where PSA stance was, but now PSA changed course and now they're open again, which I think is a little weird, but, I'm happy for those who are sending in cards and are waiting because PSA is already behind. So to be even further behind would be tough, but it's weird to see. What do you think about that?
I wasn't surprised when I heard that they were closing down. I was very happy when they reopened, partially because when I got the email that they were closing down and they weren't accepting any more orders, that morning I literally shipped off a really nice, clean 86-87 Flair Michael Jordan rookie. So I'm hoping it's going to come back a 7. Maybe what I'll do is for the, some of the pictures on this podcast that you can actually view if you happen to be just watching the YouTube screen. I'll put a picture of the Jordan rookie up, and in the comment, you could leave your opinion on what you may think the grade would come back. And it'd be fun to do an open and reveal with everybody. And it'd be interesting to see what it would come back. I think it's going to come back a 7. I think it's a little too off center, top to bottom. There's no print defects on it. Left to right centering's pretty nice. If I remember correctly, it was, 60-40 at worst, but top to bottom was a little tight. It might've been in that 70-30 range. I'm hoping it's not 75-25. It's just a card that you send in. And speaking of cards just sending in, I did do a open and reveal from PSA earlier this Monday, and the videos are up. I'm not really familiar with the GoPro. I'm getting very familiar with all the technology that I'm using now, but, so I did get a video up. It's actually 2 videos of me opening up, the cards that I got back. And actually we got back, cause you got a couple of cards back as well.
I did.
And the video is pretty cool. So if you want to go check it out, there were some, lower grade mantles in there. It's a fun video. It's quick, 8-minute and a 5-minute, and it's 15 cards back. And believe it or not, it is so it's March 19th now, and March 23rd, 5 of those mantles that I started off at 99 cents will be ending, on Monday night, the 23rd. And that will be, I believe it's 9:00 Pacific time. So if you want to check it out, if you want to, there's a 56 tops mantle and a 4. There's a 64 tops mantle and a 4. There's a Nolan Ryan, Kuzman rookie and a PSA 5 miscut, and a couple of white letter variation mantle that's up there. So check it out. And my eBay store is Cardkast, and it's the same spelling as on here. So you got CARDKAST. It's one word. I'm going to try to see if I could get a link directly below. And if I can't, I don't care. We'll see.
Well, you do care.
No, I do.
It'd be nice to do.
But listen, if I can, I can't. There's so much technology going around my head right now, trying to get all this wrapped around with the podcast, and then the GoPro, and then it's like, wow. So I feel like now I feel like I'm getting old. So.
Yeah, it's funny because anybody listening to this doesn't know like the hours and months and days and months that were put into this, and all the discussions we've had and the internal discussions you've had in your head about figuring this all out. So this is really like a culmination of all the technology that you've been working on for the past number of months.
Yeah, I felt like I was back in school for, at least a couple of days, and I don't really do well just sitting down like, no, I feel like pacing all the time. So, and I'm not even saying I have ADD. I just like to pace. Some people like to pace. So, anyways, so as far as, I know we were talking like a month ago or something like that, you had a nice, frame and mat done with a Michael Jordan autograph that's hanging in your office. Have you picked up anything recently, for yourself, or I don't want to ask if you're going to put product. I don't want you to like, hey, I just picked this up and, it's going to go into this product, but.
Okay, it's okay. I actually did yesterday. I'm a huge Don Mattingly fan, and there's actually a Don Mattingly room on Facebook, and someone who I've done a ton of business with, a really nice guy, was selling some Mattingly autographs. So I picked up a Topps Definitive, which is a very, very high-end product, out of 5 of Mattingly. So that's his autograph on there. And I just basically put, wherever I have room, I put like my Mattingly autographed cards all over the place. So they're usually well displayed in my basement, typically in my office, but it kind of protrudes into my basement area. So that was probably the one thing I got for myself. I buy a lot. I buy a lot of product, especially for my breaks. And one of the cool things I just picked up was, and it's going to be in the next round of opening day, is a Richard Nixon autograph. I didn't even tell you about that because it just happened. So I struggle sometimes. What I do is I break them my stuff by letter of last name. and sometimes I struggle for certain letters. So whenever I could pick up a letter N, I do. And Richard Nixon's autographs are, they're not cheap. So it's nice to be able to throw in a president where, there's a need for that letter. So, I have the typical, the Joe Namath. Sometimes I do things with New York. But to get a Richard Nixon in there will be really nice. So look for that in the next round of opening day for sure.
I love that. I have a friend that actually collects presidential signatures, and it's not about, it's just about how much you want to pay for it. Really. It's like you can get them, but they're not easy. And I'm sure they're set at a certain price, and you're not stealing them for anything cheap. So.
Exactly. Well, what about you? Have you picked up anything lately or no?
Oh my God. So the last two deals that I picked up, I had, let's see, I'm like swimming in 1970s baseball, which is not a bad thing. But it's a lot of just kind of getting the partial sets together, the grades right, and this and that. And then, most likely, I haven't decided if I'm going to maybe do, a couple things on Facebook in the House of Cards, the House of Vintage, Mike.
That's a good room. That's another room we'll talk about more often.
Yeah.
I'm an admin there. I started it with a gentleman named Scott Caravella and some other guys, and that's a really fun room. It's grown exponentially. So that's definitely a room if you want to get into it on Facebook. Really good room. House of Vintage and Junk Era Cards. Really, really good room for anything. And you know what? That room during the weekend, actually Thursday through Monday, is anything goes. So it's basically a room for everything for the most part, and an absolutely great room. So definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. So I was, because one of the dilemmas I'm going to run into is I don't want to run 8 either complete or near complete 78 top set on eBay at the same time. So I'm like, maybe I'll chop it up and spread the love and get some over here, get some over there. So, but I got a lot of massaging to do with this, and it's a fun deal. I love vintage cards. I love 70s cards, but that was the last. And then I have somebody else that I have a lady that called me up that has similar stuff. I think it's like early 70s to mid 70s stuff. And it seems to be last year's theme was like the people that are getting older and retiring now, they didn't do the stuff from the 50s and 60s, or it was like late 60s to mid 70s. Like those are the people that are retiring now that were kids back then. So, are getting close to retirement. So those are the collections I've been picking up, and I absolutely love it because that late 60s, early 70s stuff is actually really hot. I mean, through my eBay store, Cardkast, I've sold just in the past couple days, tons of 71 Topps high numbers. I mean, at least, 15 or 20 or so. So, I mean, people are just going in and finishing the sets and, so, and as far as, I keep bringing up the eBay store, but, one of the reasons why we wanted to kind of do this show and have it be fun and entertaining, but there's a lot of people out there that we're looking to reach that it's kind of like we're going to reach these people and we want people to get to know your dealer. So when I used to set up at the White Plains shows, I had people that would just come up to me all the time, and the conversations were great, and they knew me and they knew what they were getting. They knew that they weren't going to pay overpriced, or I wasn't going to overprice my cards, and I wasn't going to hide things in the grading and stuff like that. And one of the things I pride myself in the eBay store is I don't pull punches when it comes to condition. There's companies out there that literally will overgrade their cards and mark them up because they can, but I really pride myself, and you could check the feedback. I mean, there's a lot of comments on there and feedback as far as how I do grade raw cards accurately, especially when it comes to the vintage. A lot of my stuff is mid-grade anyways, but I'm not putting up VGX cards at X plus or X mint so I can charge more money for it, is basically what I'm trying to say. So.
Yeah, and not only that, you also get in, at least you've had in the past, not only, we're talking about baseball cards or really any cards, but basketball and football, those hard to get, high numbers from the early 70s in football and basketball cards, those cards weren't easily found. Even when we were kids in the 80s, those cards were tough cards. You could find 70, 71, 72 Topps baseball, relatively easily. But to find, basketball and football in that era, much more difficult to do, and you seem to get a lot of that stuff. Yeah,
there's always a little more excitement when you see a nice mix. Especially because, when you're buying stuff, it's all, unless if you're heavy on the key Hall of Fame rookie cards, which is nobody's walking up to me and saying, hey, I got like 10 Mike Schmidt rookies I want to sell you. So when they have the 1 or the 2 and they, like, look, I did baseball and then I also did basketball. So there's a Julius Erving rookie. And then, they might've gone up to 76 and there's a Walter Payton rookie. So that gets me excited. And I'm very fortunate that during the lean times of the hobby, back in, I would say 2009 to say 2012, 2013, we kind of started coming out of it a little bit, but your typical type dealers that just dealt in, say, vintage baseball or just dealt in like a one niche thing, they seem to be suffering at the shows. And I kind of recognize that. And I wanted action. So I'm like, I'm going to carry everything. So one of the things that little Depression era kind of helped me personally out with in becoming the dealer that I am today is it forced me to get into other things. Like I really didn't know much about vintage football or vintage hockey or basketball, but now, because of that, it's like I don't have any problems, assessing a collection and offering the right number for it because I know it's there. I'm not just taking a guess. So, and that's important, especially when you're dealing with somebody that's looking to sell you something. So you got to know what you have. If you have two people that don't know what they're doing, the buyer and the seller, it could get messy really quick. And typically it's going to go to the buyer who doesn't know what they're doing and they're only going to want to pay as cheap as possible. And they're going to end up making a ton. And that's not really fair to the seller. So, but anyways,
no, that's good. That's good to know. But how about, this is something we haven't talked about yet. And this is something we wanted to bring up, the, Beckett Throwback of the Day.
Yeah. So it's time to jump in the DeLorean, fire up the flex capacitor and head back to July of 1993, the 100th anniversary issue. Jackie Robinson graces, the cover on the front. And Nolan Ryan is on the back. He looks about the same age as Jackie Robinson at that point, even though he was still throwing 100 miles per hour and, putting Robin Ventura in headlocks. But I kind of, when I reviewed this magazine and I started pulling out just all the little nuggets, the fun little nuggets, I never thought that I would go back and say, I want to check out a Beckett magazine. But I look at the Beckett magazine as how maybe a true collector who is not a buyer and a reseller, as just that entertainment. Like I actually got excited to go through and look at Reader's Right and look and see what the product line that was coming out, like Triple Play, and what they were doing for an advertisement. So we're definitely going to do a handful of these just to see how the segments work out. But some of the things that stood out immediately so now we're in 1993. I think I'm a sophomore going into my junior year in high school. And they didn't have, SP must have came out during the summer or the fall. So they didn't have 93 SP yet. Would have been interesting to see if Derek Jeter was $5, $3. And I only say that because when I looked up Derek Jeter's rookie, now he hasn't played a game yet. Got it. Wasn't even close to really a rookie yet. But his rookie card actually went up. His Topps rookie went up to 35 cents with up arrows. His Score Select went up to 50 cents, while the JT Snow Score Select hit $3. And I remember JT Snow being a very hot prospect. And you're a Yankees fan, so I would imagine that would be of some interest to you.
Yeah, I love JT Snow. He was the next coming of Don Mattingly at one point, but they ended up not going with him. So actually, it's funny because I never really, at least early on, was a Derek Jeter fan. So I never really collected his cards. So that I'm kind of bummed out now in that sense, for sure.
Understood. Now, how about this? Street Clothes 1990 Bowman, or 1992 Bowman, Mariano Rivera with up arrows, 30 cents. 30 cents a card for 92 Bowman. Now, I remember 1992 Bowman packs were like, they had to have been over $5 a pack, like early on. And then they went up even further than that because the big card was the Chipper Jones.
I remember that.
Yeah. Also in 1993, Griffey looks like he was just getting into stride, and his 89 Upper Deck was sitting at $55. A 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle actually went down to $30,000, which I thought was pretty interesting.
And down?
Went down to 30,000. Jackie Robinson rookies, the 48-49 Leaf went up to 875, and the Bowman at 900, which, I mean, people, if they were in X or X mint condition or even touching near mint, they would scream to get those at those prices today. The other interesting one, I kind of did it at the last second. I was looking at the 68 Topps Ryan Koosman rookie, which was actually sitting at 1650. And if I'm not mistaken, I remember, I'm pretty sure it peaked at like 2,500 book value. I'm sure we'll find out at some point. I think it was nearing his retirement. And I think, I think his last year might've been like when he got those numbers, the 5,000 Ks, the 7 no hitters. And that's when it just really exploded.
Oh, he was the man.
Yeah. So other interesting nuggets out of the magazine. If you were going to the El Camino College Terrence, California card show, the Summerfest, okay, you would have been able.
We didn't go to that.
I know so 1993. Back in 1993, you could have gotten flats and balls of Walter Payton for $33 a signature.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and now you could have went the other way. And you could have gotten Baby Jordan, Harold Miner for $23 a flat or $38 a basketball, which is, I mean,
Jordan, I remember him.
So, we'll do one of those things like, who do you take the second mortgage out on? The up and coming prospect of Baby Jordan or legendary Walter Payton, who unfortunately we lost way too soon. And in the West Coast National, this is very interesting. This definitely piqued my interest. This was out of the card shows and the announcement of autograph guests. This definitely took the cake. So they had, it was going July 2nd to the 5th. So it was a 4-day show at the Anaheim Convention Center. Sandy Koufax was going to be there for 2 days. Now, getting into the card shows and things like that, I always kind of just thought Sandy Koufax really didn't sign, or maybe he signed for companies. But he was there on the 3rd and 4th, and you could have gotten flats and baseballs at $50 a signature. Bats were $75. Jerseys were $85. And what's interesting about that is you start seeing the menu system. You don't see anything for inscriptions yet, but when you go to a card show today, typically you'll see like an a la carte system like this, and then they'll add in the photo op. So there wasn't any photo ops. You probably had a Polaroid. You're like, hey, Sandy, could you smile at the camera? And he either said yes or no. Also signing that day, or on July 3rd, was Roy Campanella. And I was like, Campy,
wow.
Campy's in the house. And I was thinking to myself, my spidey senses went off. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, he probably didn't sign for much longer after that, but he was, they announced that he was $150 for flats or baseballs, but there was an asterisk, not because of steroids, but because the asterisk was he wasn't capable of signing baseballs anymore. So it was just flats. If you wanted a bat, which is a round object, it was $300. There wasn't any problems there. Jerseys were $200. But again, my spidey senses went off. So I said, let me do a little Wikipedia search on Campy here. And I ended up finding out, and this is really sad, Roy Campanella passed 7 days before the show on the 26th. So he never got to make it to the show. And I'm sure that anybody that was excited to go see him, they just didn't, and he passed away in California of heart failure, and it was really, kind of sad, a sad way to end it. But I, reading up on him, I got a little nostalgic because I remember reading up on him as a kid, and then, 20, 30 years go by and you're like, you kind of forget things. So it was kind of nice to go back and look. And, the only other things of note here, Muhammad Ali was there on the 4th and the 5th. I mean, can you imagine running a card show on July 4th? Couldn't imagine doing that today.
No, it doesn't.
So he was, flats, and I guess he was signing baseballs too, which I have seen autographed baseballs of him. They were $50. Boxing gloves were $75, and robes and trunks were $85. And I'm pretty sure if you could, again, take a second mortgage on the house, boxing gloves and robes oversized items of Muhammad Ali. I mean, they're up there. They're expensive today, that's for sure.
You know what I was thinking?
Mm-hmm.
When you were saying about Roy Campanella, and one of the things that piqued my interest when you mentioned that was that you said he couldn't sign baseballs anymore. I'm wondering now, knowing that you mentioned that, and something I never knew before. So at some point he stopped signing baseballs because, number one, I know he was in a wheelchair, and I guess just his old age maybe or whatever it was caught up to him where he wasn't able to sign baseballs. So I have to assume signed baseballs of Roy Campanella are either far and few between, or if they are out there, are very expensive, knowing that he could have signed a lot more flats than baseballs. What do you think about that?
No, the answer is yes. Yeah, single sign baseballs are up there. I haven't seen one, or just I haven't gone and looked and see what they are as far as value. But no, the single sign baseballs are a premium. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the reasons is I hate to give out false information, but my gut tells me, just off of memory, that I think he suffered a stroke at some point in the 80s. So, because I think I remember hearing conversations through my inner workings, my fellow dealers, that there's a premium for maybe even pre-stroke baseballs or post-stroke baseballs, but I could be getting him confused with Cool Papa Bell. I hope I'm not. I can double check and verify, but I think that's the case, and that might be why he stopped signing baseballs altogether. And as a matter of fact, from my understanding, I don't know if he ever actually signed through the mail, but I do know that if you sent something to him in the mail, it got to the point where they were actually stamping the baseball cards with what's called a rubber stamp. So
that's interesting. I'm sure that's something we'll get into eventually, rubber stamping and secretarial signatures and things of that nature. So
yeah,
sure we'll hit that
absolutely. And the last thing to note that was kind of interesting. So on July 3rd, they had a run of guests with Ralph Branca, Don Larson, Bill Mazeroski, and Bobby Thompson, and all four guys were $5 a piece for a signed flat or a baseball. $7 for bats and $10 for jerseys. So it just kind of puts you in a different time, because I'm pretty sure one of the topics of conversations we were going to have was Don Larson passing at the beginning of the year. And I think before he passed, if he showed up at a show, he might've been $59 to $79 to the public, plus $25 for an inscription. So it's just kind of interesting that, how. And listen, I want those kind of players that didn't make that kind of money to get paid, but it kind of really shows that if you're a local once a month Sunday show, that you really can't bring, those guests in, because you're going to get killed. Especially with their guarantee and their piece count and everything. So, and then, so the other thing is I as a kid, I brought it up before. I did enjoy reading the Reader's Right, and what they did was they took the 100 episodes or the 100 publications, and these were some of they republished some of the best letters from their readers. So I circled a couple. We're not going to go over them all, but this is for the first one that I circled is actually really interesting. So it's called Stain Removal is the title. To remove the stains left by gum and wax packs, take an old nylon stocking and gently rub the stain until it is gone. This is quite effective. Now, this was posted in 1987, and their response to that was, nylons as a light abrasive are very effective. Be sure to rub gently in the Army. Oh, in the Army, we used to use old nylon stockings to buff the spit shine out of our shoes. What's interesting about that is I thought that was like a little inside trade secret. Maybe like in the 90s, like early 2000s, like not everybody knew that. And I remember seeing people commenting on it in some Facebook group, card collecting group rooms that I was in. And I really thought that was like kind of like somewhat of a modern secret, but this is going back to 1987 that was published in.
It's funny. My dad actually told me he thought the best idea was toilet paper, 1-ply toilet paper, and you just rub a little bit. And we did it. We used to do it. Obviously Tops was the big one where you had the wax stain, especially the gum stain, and you would want that 88 Tops Jesse Orozco card, nice and clean. So you just put a little toilet paper on the spot, and it would come off. It would. That's very interesting.
Well, you can't do that with toilet paper. You need that toilet paper today. You can't do that today.
Today, I would not be using it. Today, Jesse Orozco would have to stick with the gum on him. So Jesse. And one day I'll tell you a story about Jesse Orozco, too. His name just popped up. But I have plenty of stories.
Yeah, Jesse Orozco. So the next one is Almond for president. My friend and I are avid Bill Almond fans. Together we have 789 Bill Almond cards. He is our favorite player and idol. His statistics may be unspectacular, but he is a superstar in our hearts. He is overlooked by most card collectors, but by the end of the 1987 baseball season, collectors will be sorry they never collected Bill Almond. This is the beginning of Almonia.
Signed, Bill Almond's mom.
Right. So it's two parts. So we're glad you have a favorite player to support. You're right. You and your friend are in a small minority at this time, which I like the little rib shot, the little shots back.
Yeah, that was definitely a little shot. Yeah, absolutely.
But here's the worst part. We're broadcasting out of Connecticut, and these yahoos, it's MB and JS out of Connecticut. So MB and JS, get those ideas out of it. We don't want you to know that we're from Connecticut. Get out of here with that. But that was back in 1987, so it's
I'd like to get them on the phone right now and see what how their Bill Almond collection is doing.
MB and JS, if you're listening, we're around. Contact us. The next one is a pack of Bobs. My friend and I were in a card shop when he purchased a 1986 Topps wax pack. The pack contained 8 cards whose players' first names were Bob. Is this some kind of record? I've never seen this happen before.
Yeah, I'm not sure they did records on that. Did they keep records on that back then? Probably, or today? But no, it's definitely a record.
Here's their response. It probably is a record, but we're not sure Guinness would be interested.
That makes sense. Another little backhanded rib, kind of very funny. I like that. I like these people. We got to get in touch with people from Beckett.
These are hilarious. But here's the thing, though. This is like the best of. So I can't imagine weeding out all the other write-ins. But anyways,
these are the best ones.
These are the best ones. These are the best ones. So I hope they get better in the next 100. But anyways, I'd like to give a shout out to our good friend, Johann Mons. And this article has Johann written all over it. So this is titled Broken Dreams. So it goes, I was wondering about a few cards in your book. The 83 Flair card number 263, Dwayne Kipper, in mint condition, worth 3 cents. I was told since Dwayne is holding a broken bat, it would be worth more than that. And this was done in 1986. What? Yeah, I know. So their response was, how many people do you know avidly collect broken bat cards? Seriously, the demand for the card is negligibly above the demand for any other common player card in that set. Now, I beg to differ because the reason why I gave a shout out to my friend Johann is because he has a full binder of players pointing the bat into the camera amongst many other weird like collections. Like he has players like all sports, like riding bicycles. He has a collection of Afro cards, like guys with Afros, white and black, and anybody in between. He has got he's got the funny names collection. So it kind of prompts me to say, like, one of our episodes coming up very soon, we'll probably have Johann on as a special guest, and we're definitely doing like the funny names, the funny cards, and we're going to cover all that A to Z.
You know what? In Facebook groups, you'd be surprised how many people collect funny names. I'm one of those people. We don't really talk about it. It's not something people avidly sell. But there's I wouldn't say a black market, but there's definitely a group of people who collect the funny names. And if you guys don't know some of the funny names, I'm sure we'll go over them at some point. But man, there are some great names, especially if you're going back in time and you want to look at, again, slang changes so quickly in American society. You could go back 50 years, even earlier, even more recently, 40 years, 70s. There are some great names that would never be names today, but they're real names. So that'll definitely be interesting to talk to you.
That is going to be a great future, near future show. I don't know if it's going to be episode 3, 4, 5, but it's going to be in our top 5. And hopefully it'll be rated as that and when we get to do it. So this next one had me cracking up like crazy. So this one is titled Job Security. My uncle owns a card shop where I work after school. Business is bad right now. We have a lot of cards, but most of them are 1988 Donruss. You keep lowering the You keep lowering the prices on them every month. Please raise them back up so we can sell our cards. If we don't do better, my uncle will have to let me go. Stanley Mellish out of California.
Oh, Stanley.
So I do kind of like the professional response on this. As you've no doubt heard before, we don't raise or lower card values at will, but try to accurately reflect transactions currently taking place in the market. What your store and the market are telling us right now is that the mass-produced cards of the late 80s are experiencing rapidly diminishing demand, hence the drop in prices. With the increasing competition among card shops, shows, and flea markets, those that offer the most complete selection at the fairest prices will be the ones that retain the loyal customer base. Those that hope to survive by carrying only recent products such as 1988 Donruss may have a much rougher go.
Well, what they didn't say in there is that they are still making 1988 Donruss cards today. That's how many are in the market. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this guy lost his job.
It's a fair guess, and it's kind of funny that it's actually it's the 1988 Donruss product.
I was thinking the exact same thing. He didn't say 89 tops. He didn't say 87 tops, that wouldn't be bad. But like 91 Fleer. He said 88 Donruss, and for all of us who collect cards, I mean, I have boxes upon boxes of unopened 88 Donruss wax and cello and rack. I think every collection you ever pick up, whenever someone tries to sell you a collection, that's in there. It's a no-brainer. We will never get an accurate count of the number of cards of 88 Donruss, but it's astronomical.
Listen, I don't blame, I don't blame Donruss. I don't blame Beckett. I blame one person and one person only, and that's Greg Jeffries.
Oh, it's completely Greg Jeffries' fault. I mean, if he wasn't in that set, I don't know. Well, actually, if he wasn't in that set, I don't even know if anybody would have bought those cards in '88. Nobody knew about Roberto Alomar. He was Sandy Alomar's brother, really.
Mark Grace. People were looking at Mark Grace.
Okay, you're right, Mark Grace.
Most hits in the 90s.
Was he really?
Oh yeah.
I'm shocked, really. I guess the 90s weren't a big year, a big decade. But what about someone like Kirby Puckett? Was he not around until 2000? I guess maybe not.
No, he retired in 96 because of the eye.
I'm trying to think. And Tony Gwynn probably retired early. Wow, Mark Grace is the guy. That is one nugget of information that nobody will know.
Yeah, I hope it's true. I'm pretty sure it's true. I'm pretty sure that sometimes if I dream some things sometimes and it comes out as fact, but I'm like it just as much as I know. Like Dale Murphy had the most home runs in the 1980s. Jack Morris had the most wins in the 1980s. So Mark Grace followed suit. I'll have to look that up after, but I'm like pretty positive Mark Grace had the most.
I'm going to make Tim Belcher had the most wins in the 90s. There you go. I'm making up statements too. And Jesse Orozco, we'll go back to Jesse Orozco. Most saves in a career.
Yep.
There. See, you're just making stuff up. No way, Mark. I guess if you say it, when Lenny says something, it's usually true. So I'm going to believe him on this. But it's amazing that someone with the most hits in a whole decade never even partially considered for the Hall of Fame.
Well, I mean,
and then he got into legal trouble or something later on in life.
Yeah.
Wasn't he? I think he was in. I don't want to say he was in jail, but I think he was.
Well, we'll have to do some research on Mark Grace before we start.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything that might not be true, but yeah, it's pretty crazy that someone who was in who with the most hits for a whole decade is not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's a little. I think it's a little more common than you think, but anyways, so the next one we have is Mantle bats 300,000 or 320,000. And the article is, I just bought the June 1992 Beckett magazine, and I think I found an error. On page 27, the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card, number 311, is listed with a high price of $320,000. This isn't right, is it? Since the complete set is $64,000, it should be $32,000. And this was actually it was sent in by Diana Herbick from Kansas.
Hi, Diana.
Yeah. So that was back in 1992. Let's hope she's still collecting. So anyways, the response was, yes, the correct price is $32,000. That truly egregious error was missed by our usually trusted proofreader, who has since been sentenced to 320,000 hours of solitary confinement, during which he must recite the mantra that no one card can be valued more than the set price.
Oh, so he might still be in solitary confinement. He might be in good shape then for the coronavirus.
I love that. That was a great response. I love that. So the next one is we got two left. One is this is great. Parts is parts. The ultimate baseball player would have Vince Coleman's feet and calves, Kirby Puckett's thighs, Mark McGwire's upper body, George Bell's left bicep, Don Mattingly's forearms, Ozzie Smith's hands, Wade Boggs' left eye, and Tony Gwynn's right eye. That's it.
I don't even know what this is.
That's his article. Listen, you know what? I think it's the photographer that worked for Score that did those horrible Dream Team sets with all the guys with the shirts off. And it might be the same photographer that worked for Proline that had all those pictures with the guy. Again, no shirts in Zubas and Zubas sweatpants and fanny packs. So I don't know what happened with cards during that time or those particular cards, but I wasn't really happy when I opened up a 91 Score pack and I got a view of Kirby Puckett's nipples. So I mean, and then, and I don't know how the conversation went with, Derek Thomas. I mean, there's like 7 or 8 cards in the set. And I'm pretty sure it was probably to try to draw women into the hobby because they, make the guys all look all hot. But like, okay, Derek, we're going to take you off of this field and then we're going to take pictures of you while you're laying in your hot tub. That's a card. Exactly. That's a real card. And I think Johann actually has a whole book of professional athletes in hot tubs. I'm pretty sure he has that. So anyways, moving on to the last one, which kind of falls in the same kind of thing, but I thought it was kind of cute. The title is Cover Boys, and it says, I'm a 14-year-old female baseball fan, and the main reason I love baseball is just to look at all the great-looking guys. And the response was, we never thought of covers as pinups or cover boys, but they did list underneath who basically graced the cover of the magazine the most times. And at the time in 1993, in the first 100 issues, Bo Jackson and Don Mattingly were tied with 5 covers each. Ripken was at 4, and then a slew of people were tied at 3, including, the Mickey Mantle made it in, but like Will Clark, Roger Clemens, King Griffey Jr., Henderson, a lot of the top guys back then. And, but I just thought that was kind of interesting to see.
Do you remember the Diamond Kings of the 80s and 90s where they would actually put on the back of the card the number of times that they were, like the years that they were on Diamond Kings?
Yes, I do.
That's kind of what that reminded me of.
Yeah. So and the last thing for our, trip back in time before we head back to 2020, the last thing that stands out were how I couldn't believe the print and how many pages of show listings there were. So to give you an example, I counted them. I just did it because we're doing the show. I figured let me put an extra hour and worth of work and I'll count these shows. But I'll just do 3 states. California for the month of July had 318 shows running. Now, California's a big state. So I was like, okay, let's condense it. Mike's from New York. Mike, you're in Long Island, you're Brooklyn, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Back in 1993, you had your pick for that month of 130 shows to go to.
Wow.
That is.
And you know what? Most of them are probably on weekends. And then they had those, I remember they had monthly, nightly shows like on a Wednesday night. Imagine having a show today on a Wednesday, like a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night where you just pick up and after dinner go to a card show. Like, how cool would that be?
It would be very cool. Just not this week because we're not allowed to do that. But
that's right.
Right. But just also to give you an idea, I looked at July 11th in New York. There were 7 shows running against each other. Now
that was just like hopping. That was show hopping.
Yes.
You're going to different shows. That probably wasn't seen as a bad thing back then. Today it would be.
No, and it just goes to show you it's pre eBay. You couldn't just like have a sleeping disorder and not be sleeping on a Tuesday night at 1:00 in the morning and just jump online and like buy a Roger Clemens rookie. Like you had to get to the shows. You had to get there early because you knew the best stuff was going to go. And that, unfortunately, eBay, that's the only thing that really like, it definitely, almost kind of ruined card shows like that, but it took away the sense of urgency for people to go to a show. because you could just go on on your phone anytime. And listen, technology is a great thing. And the way the hobby and the business side of the hobby has regulated is really interesting. But just in Connecticut, where I was, there were 23 shows, which was a lot. Today there's maybe, I don't have a Beckett in front of me, but I think there might be 6 shows, the most 7.
I would think even less.
No, yeah. there's a couple.
Are there even 23 people? Were there 23 people in Connecticut back then? That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. No, I think there's a couple of shows that run on a Saturday and a Sunday. So not that they're the same show, but right. I think there's like 5 or 6. So.
But yeah, that's something I definitely noticed when I go back and look at those old Becketts. Like you see those all the shows, and you're like, wow. And most of them, none of them were like massive. But it was all local shows, and everybody took advantage of their local people who were part of a hobby. And most of them, if you look at them, they're probably in like VFWs or school gymnasiums or stuff like that. You don't get that anymore. I mean, you touched on the White Plains show, but for those of you who don't live in New York, you probably don't even know. White Plains is a convention center. Actually, I think the Knicks development team plays basketball there. It's a big place. That's where you're going to see shows now. Very rarely will you see a show at, a church, in a church basement or something. But back then, that was the thing to do. We used to go to the Elks Lodge and or the VFW Post, and that's these small little places would have 30, 35 local dealers come, and for $20 a table, put out all their stuff, and you'd be buying stuff like crazy from these people. But it was locally, where every town had their own show. And now you have to travel. I mean, I'm in Brooklyn. To go to White Plains is over an hour, but I go to the shows because that's it. That's the local show to me. So it's and you same way for you. If you're going to go to the show in White Plains, you're in Connecticut. I mean, that's an hour plus drive for you, isn't it?
Yes. Where I am right now. Yeah. Not to my office. It's like 40 minutes from my office in Stratford to White Plains. But yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, my shows there was a show 5 minutes for me, 8 minutes driving, 6 minutes. If we really wanted to get go wild, there was by Kennedy Airport there was a show there, and that was like 20 minutes. I was like, oh, are we ever going to get there? As a kid, you don't think about it because I'm so used to the shows being 3 minutes away. So now it's completely different, but fun nonetheless.
Yeah, it is. It is. I kind of like where I'm at, where I'm getting back into doing some of them. And I felt like I had a really good run doing the multi-day shows, the Sunday shows. I mean, I don't want to do every show now. I like to be a little more selective, but absolutely met a ton of great people. And I also feel that some of your both sides of it, the bigger multi-day shows and even the smaller shows, if you have the right venue, I feel that the way now it's like eBay is going the other way, right? So there's a lot of transactions going on Facebook, which is all fine and dandy. But if you go to a smaller show and you pay $1 admission and you have dealers that have their stuff priced right, your dollar is going to go so much farther than buying online because you don't have to pay for shipping. You don't have to pay sales tax. And more than likely, again, if you have the right dealers that have the right stuff that discount down and you're a repeat customer, I think those little shows are going to start booming again. I'm starting to see it already. And that is one of that is the topic. That is one of the reasons why you're starting to see more and more people come in.
Well, also you get to see the card, which is a big deal. You could touch, not that you're going to touch it and feel it and smell it and lick it, but you are going to be able to visually see the card. And you know what? Not everybody on eBay is always on the up and up. And like you were talking about before, where people misgraded their cards or can misgrade their cards because it's online and it's a little easier to do that. You can't do that to somebody in person. So it's always good to get that, especially if you're looking for a specific grade or something like that, and you're making a set. It's definitely something you want to do. I'm hoping beyond hope that the National doesn't get canceled, and I want to go there. I've never been to one, so card shows absolutely are. At least I would think they're going to stay around. Obviously not as many as what there used to be, but card shows are definitely something to enjoy and embrace because we don't have too many of them anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And
funny you mentioned that because speaking of card shows, we have a question. And what would you guys think about starting a card show, either like a 1 day or like a one-time show or a monthly show? And Len, I'll pose this question to you because you've done this, so you know what it takes or what it's like or how hard and difficult it actually is to do a show.
Yeah. The answer is no, don't do run away. Look, I took over one of the oldest show in the state of Connecticut back in 2008. I ran it till the end of 2015. So just about 8 years. I put on about 93, 94, whatever it was, small productions. You're doing it every month. It's the first Sunday of every month. And, I ran it through a very lean time in what we went through it together in the United States. The economy was bad, but even if it's good, okay, you have to have a hall that is priced right, because if you don't want to go and do the show and not make any money. Okay, so you have to get the hall priced right. You have to get a good location with parking, because if you can't park there, people can't come in. There's going to be issues, and people have to be able to find the place. Okay, so right there, you're in a conflict, right? So you got to find something that's right price, but you also have to find good location with parking. Okay. If you're looking to just start a show, you have to beg, steal, and borrow dealers. Dealers are not coming to flock to do a new show, because they know it's not a show that is in existence, so they know the customers aren't going to be there. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's why starting a new show is tough. If you have an opportunity to maybe take over an old show, somebody got older, they don't want to do it anymore, and they want to just, and you can acquire it, that would be my suggestion if you were to go that route. Look, you also have advertisements too. It's a big expense. It's not just the 1 day either. Okay. So you have to, I don't want to say this in a bad way towards the dealers, because I am friends with a lot of the dealers, still friends with a lot of the dealers that used to do my show, but you have to babysit those guys. You have to know that they're going to be there. You get guys that call up like the night before, they want to cancel, you're not taking deposits, like there's no guarantees. And guess what? When I was doing it, if you upset them, well, there's nobody to take their place. So, and here's the thing, not only does the hall have to be right price, but it has to be the right size. So my experience, the perfect venue, if you're looking to start something new or take something over, make sure it's only the size of the hall is maybe a 30 to 40, at the most 40 tables. You don't want to have more, because if you have empty tables, the dealer that would take 2 tables can spread out to 3, and the dealers are smart. If you don't fill up the hall the next time, they're going to want to take 1 table and get the second one for free to spread out, because you don't want to have empty tables when the customers are coming in. They don't want to think that the show is half empty. So you have to, it's like it's a yin and a yang, and they both have to match, and they both have to be perfect. So you have to advertise. There's a cost for that. So, and you have to do it smart. I mean, I got away from actually the paper advertisements, because anybody that was reading that ad, they already knew the show was there. And I even proved it by making it a free coupon. And all I was getting was the regulars who knew that the ad was there, and they were just bringing it in, and they were getting in the show for free. So,
right.
Because I would charge $2 admission. I was able to charge $2 admission at the time, but and I kept it at $2. And what I did was I promoted within the shows. I did some really great promotions with local little leagues, and even doing that, just like, hey, bring out your whole family. If you played in the little league, I want you, your whole family, and friends to come out for free. I'm not going to charge you any admission. Just come, walk the show, see what we're all about. And I couldn't do it. Get a free pack of 15 tops, whenever I was doing it, 14 tops. It was tough. It was like pulling teeth. But again, the disposable income wasn't there. So it's a little bit different now. And it's so different that there's guys that I haven't seen in 20 years that are coming to the local shows that, because there's money, a lot of money in the business now, in this hobby, it's attracting, it just attracts everybody. So, the other thing too is the thing that I kind of ran into is that I'm probably a better dealer than I am a promoter. I had to, if you are thinking about starting a show because you want to sell your own stuff as a dealer, that's almost a no-no right off the bat, because the dealers are going to say, well, wait a minute, you're making money on the show. Now you're going to take money out of the customers' pockets and I'm paying real estate and you're not, you know? So I was in the situation where I was setting up in my own show because I had to. I had a 60 table hall I had to fill. And because I was a good and very friendly dealer and I always had new inventory and I was priced right, I was sucking a lot of the money out of the room and the dealers weren't happy. So I was very okay to walk away from everything when I did. Like I said, if you're looking to, and now that's if you're looking to do something long-term. If you're looking to do a one-time thing, best thing to do is just get involved with your local little leagues. If you have a kid that's playing, you got your foot in the door already. You're probably you get a hold of the president of the little leagues, go to the meetings, present your ideas. Maybe you could do a combination fundraiser. Now, if you're doing it as a fundraiser, and you want to set up where the money goes to them, you're probably going to get the support of the parents. But you also have to advertise out of that show and bring collectors into the room too. Because again, the dealers aren't going to go and set up at a place that they're not going to be able to make money. And having a little bit of experience with a friend who just did this, bringing 88 Donruss packs and hoping that a kid is going to buy that because it's old isn't going to happen. They're going to they want the newest people. So if you're going to quote unquote think you're going to sell like your junk to little kids, like that overproduced stuff, not going to happen. I saw it not happen. So just, you could thank me later. So
what you're saying is there aren't that many Bill Almond fans today?
No, not at all. And then the other side of it too is, one of the things that complemented shows that went hand in hand were autograph guests. So if you're sitting on a little chunk of change, 20 grand, 30 grand, and I've seen this happen too. Didn't happen to me, but I've seen this happen to some people. One of the dealers that would set up and do my shows, he decided to run a show up at the casino, spent a ton of money advertising, brought in like current football players to do signings, like Giants guys. And I don't even think he hit anybody big. With that kind of a budget, I couldn't imagine you were bringing in anybody big, and he lost his shirt. Okay. And the thing about the autograph guests, when they used to do the shows back in the 90s, okay, so you had, like, I'm going to use Lou Brock as an example. Okay, I happen to know, little birdie told me, a fellow, inside guy who had him at a signing. I'm pretty sure he quoted me as saying he was $4,000 on a 400 piece count. That didn't include travel. Okay. So bring in Lou Brock, you pay the $4,000. He comes in. Okay. You're going to retail him out at anywhere between $20 and $25, and you're going to have wholesale in the back room and stuff like that. So now Lou Brock's autograph today on a baseball, if it's not perfect, is probably a $30 baseball. So Lou Brock today, though, coming in, and I know he's got, let's pretend he doesn't have physical limitations and that he could just, come to the show and everything's good. So you got to pay for his hotel, airfare, all this other stuff. And his appearance is probably anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000. So now you got to charge the public anywhere between, $70 and $80, and it's going to be a la carte, and you're going to have to pay for inscription. You got to buy the baseball. You got to buy the 8x10. You're going to be into Lou Brock for $30 to $140 tatted up with a 1985 Hall of Fame inscription. So
yeah, and you're talking about things that most people won't even know about, like back room and how this is happening. So this is actually very interesting stuff that most people won't know about.
Yeah. So if you have so two things, if you have access to a show, like I'm very good friends with the guys at, JPRS, JP Rock Solid Promotions. They run the biggest shows in the tri-state area here in, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. And they put on a big production. They're going to have, provided everything goes smooth and, if we come out of this whole thing, when they have their East Coast National, they're going to have like 100 guests. So do the airfare, do this, do that, their appearance fees and stuff like that. They put on a mega production. And if you have the opportunity, to go check out their shows, I'm going to just throw them a free plug here. You could go to, was it www.nyshows.org. You could see what they're doing over there. You could check out their autograph guests. I know they just had there was a big show in Long Island that they just had to cancel because of what's going on with the coronavirus. But, they put on a great show. And I mean, I've seen people just, 30, 40-year-olds turn into little kids when they get to meet Cal Ripken Jr. or Pete Rose or Mike Tyson. And I mean, they bring in some really, really big names. And
I got it. I brought my buddy to a show in White Plains where he's a huge Atlanta Brave fan, and he got to meet Smoltz, Glavin, and I think Chipper was there, if I'm not mistaken. It was the three of them. I don't know if Maddox. I forget it was Chipper or Maddox. Either way, he got all autographs. He got the photo op. He was, when I tell you, like, talk about meeting your idols, he was in heaven. And this is a guy who doesn't get phased over anything. And he was in love with these guys.
Well, so one of the big things that happened over the winter, and we were talking about this, and I know I think I sense a little regret. I mean, we could fire up the DeLorean again and go back to November of 2019 and go to the Thanksgiving show. Don Mattingly made his first appearance there in 10 years. And they actually had a thing where you could play catch with them for 5 minutes and have that conversation. It was an expensive, well, I'll put it to you this way. It was done right. Okay. So first of all, Donnie Baseball is an unbelievably class act. Okay. And so he did a really good job as far as, I guess taking care of the customer. Okay. Giving them their time and everything and really kind of paying attention to what they had to say and having that great experience. But I think it was a $300 fee, and you got to play catch for 5 minutes. He signed the baseball that you played catch with, and you also got a photo op. So in today's world, a photo op could be anywhere between $75 to $150, depending if you're, a top guy. And Mattingly, for an appearance, is still a top guy because I hate to use the word cult following with him because it's not a cult following. I mean, if you're a Yankees fan, you're a Don Mattingly fan. There's a lot of Yankees fans out there. So.
He's everything. He's my whole childhood.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Yeah, cult following is you're a Jose Cruz Jr. fan. That's a cult following.
that is a cult following. Hey, he's in Topps archives. You could grab him.
Right. So no, Mattingly was the man. I think it kind of goes with Will Clark too. I mean, Will the Thrill, awesome. And
Will Clark's better than
there's a cult following on Will Clark. No, it's not a cult following. It's people love Will Clark. Like he was a great hitter.
People love Will Clark.
Yeah, he's Will the Thrill.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so listen, that looks like it wraps it up here today. So
if you guys want to ask us any questions, you want to leave comments or anything below, you could email us directly at cardcast@gmail.com. Anytime you guys want, we'll be happy to respond. Len, anything on your end?
Yeah, also, if you like the show, please subscribe and comment below. Hit the notification bell. Make sure you check out Opening Day on Facebook for all of Mike's breaks. And check out Cardkast on eBay, spelled exactly the same, Cardkast, for vintage and modern sports card singles, autographs, auctions, and buy it nows. Guys, thank you very much for listening to the show. We really appreciate it. We're looking to take this little baby and have it grow up in the world, and we're going to be putting a lot more of these out. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Len.